There's a reason Viking homes survived winters that would break most modern roofs in a single season. Long before architectural schools and climate-controlled drafting rooms, Norse builders developed a method so effective that rival communities tried to copy it, but they never got the details right. The real secret wasn't brute strength or oversized timbers. Their advantage came from a subtle roofing trick designed not to fight snow, but to work with it. And once you understand how it worked, the entire engineering logic of Viking homesteads makes sense in a way most documentaries barely touch. For the next minute, stay with me, because this overlooked detail changes how we think about early northern construction. And it even has practical value for anyone living in snowy climates today. This isn't myth, nor is it romanticized Viking lore. It's a technique proven by excavation, preserved in sagas, and echoed in surviving Scandinavian farmhouses. How Viking roofs use snow as structural support rather than an enemy. When most people think of snow on a roof, they picture weight, collapse, and frantic shoveling. Viking builders saw something different. They recognized that densely packed snow could act as a natural insulator, and, if the roof was built correctly, a stabilizing layer. To make this work, the roof pitch wasn't set too steep or too shallow. Steep roofs shed snow entirely. Shallow roofs collapse under it. The Vikings chose a deliberate middle angle, typically between 45 and 55 degrees, specifically calibrated so snow would settle and compress without sliding off. This created a heavy but evenly distributed load that tightened the roof's frame rather than straining it. Archaeologists studying longhouse ruins in Iceland and Norway consistently find evidence of this intentional geometry, proving it wasn't accidental. It was a crafted structural system. Why the supporting frame was designed to flex instead of resist. Modern roofs emphasize rigidity, but Viking builders worked with wood's natural elasticity. Their rafters weren't locked into brittle perpendicular joints. Instead, they used lap joints and peg joinery that allowed micro-movement under heavy load. As snow built up and compressed into a dense, frozen shell, the roof flexed slightly, absorbing stress the same way a snowshoe bends under weight. This created a stable, self-reinforcing shell that was unlikely to collapse unless badly built. It explains why sagas describe longhouses surviving storms that snap trees in half. The trick wasn't overpowering nature. It was reading nature correctly. Why turf layering was the final secret to making the snow roof trick work. The snow roof system would have failed on bare wooden shingles. The Vikings added 2 layers. A birch bark waterproof membrane, and a thick turf blanket. The turf absorbed moisture, froze into a firm outer crust, and locked snow in place. Instead of sliding, the snow fused into the turf, forming an insulating blanket that kept interior temperatures surprisingly stable. Excavations at reconstructed sites, such as Lens or Meadows in Newfoundland, show roofs with turf layers nearly a foot thick. This was not primitive guesswork. It was cold climate engineering. So, here's how this method actually protected Viking families through those brutal winters. The snow layer, you see, trapped the warm air rising from the central hearth. And when you combine that with the insulating turf, the roof basically formed a natural thermal barrier, something that honestly modern energy-efficient homes try to imitate with all those layered materials. Longhouses could actually maintain livable temperatures even during weeks of sub-zero wind chill. Families slept in these sidewall cubbies where heat would collect, and even the livestock shared interior space to add a bit more warmth. The roof, in a way, acted like a natural winter cocoon. The snow roof trick wasn't just clever. It was absolutely life-saving in an environment where poor insulation could mean starvation or, well, frostbite. So, let's talk about how you can actually apply this Viking knowledge today when building or maintaining a snow country home. Modern building codes, well, they don't allow turf roofs on most standard houses. But, you know, the principles the Vikings use still have practical value. If you own a cabin, or maybe a small outbuilding in a snowy region, a moderate pitch roof can help reduce dangerous snow shedding and distribute weight more safely. Builders in Scandinavia still use flexible joinery systems for mountain cabins, allowing displacement rather than sheer failure. Even green roofs in Europe borrow from turf roof logic by layering waterproof membranes under thick biodegradable material. A modern adaptation, for example, involves building a woodshed or workshop with a deliberate middle-angled roof, using thick, rough-sawn boards, then adding a living sod layer atop waterproofing. Through winter, the accumulated snow will insulate the structure, keeping interior temperatures steadier. Another practical example is reinforcing an existing roof with a ridge beam that allows controlled flexing under snow load. This mimics the Viking elastic frame principle and reduces cracking, especially in older timber buildings. Survivalists who build off-grid shelters can apply this knowledge directly. A simple A-frame shelter with a turf layer and properly angled rafters can use snow as insulation rather than a threat. The key is the angle too steep, and snow sheds, too flat, and it collapses. Setting rafters between 45 and 55 degrees stabilizes the load and keeps heat trapped where you need it. This is the same logic that kept Norse settlers alive in Iceland's harsh volcanic winters. Now, why does this forgotten method deserve renewed respect from historians and builders? Well, academic focus often highlights Viking ships, warfare, and exploration. But the architectural intelligence that allowed the Norse to survive Arctic and subarctic winters is just as remarkable. Their approach blended observation, tradition, and material science centuries before those terms even existed. Modern engineers studying historic Scandinavian farms identify identical design logic repeated for generations, proving the method's reliability. The Vikings didn't hide this secret out of mystique. They simply passed it through skilled craft traditions, reserving the real knowledge for those willing to learn through practice, not imitation. If you enjoyed uncovering one of the most practical and honestly overlooked Viking building techniques, make sure you subscribe to In the Beginning, share this video with fellow history enthusiasts, and help keep these forgotten skills alive.